Hey folks. Hey folks and welcome. It is Wednesday at the normal-ish time. I'm sorry that I didn't put up the stream was going to happen until just a few minutes ago. It's been a wild time lately. So I just noticed on my own phone that the notification went out from YouTube. So perhaps people will over time stroll in, and if not, maybe they will catch this on the replay. So if you are here live, please let me know, and if you catch this on the replay, please feel free to let me know after the fact. Friends, it is Wednesday, and guess what I woke up to this morning? I woke up to checking my Twitter feed, and honestly, if I wasn't looking at Twitter, I would not know that this was happening, but apparently there's a new update rolling out, which is awesome. Like, more? Like, how could there be more? But apparently there is more. This is a Google spam update. I'm actually over at Search Engine Journal just looking at one of the articles. I just searched it to see what pops up. And as always, they are very mysterious about what exactly they are targeting. But Google is estimating that the October 2022 spam update will take several days to roll out, which again is awesome. Seriously, Google, like seriously. So I did not know this update was, I did not know that this update was coming, but I did happen to look this morning at stats just for the week and noticed that the Mega site was down kind of inexplicably yesterday, like down as far as it has been. And then I was checking the dailies, like I'm looking at right now, like the day to date, and definitely, I'm going to tentatively say that I'm getting sucked into this as of today, but it's going to go several days. And at this point, I almost feel numb. Is numb the right word? Like a little numb about just the continual dramatics, like the drama. And it's leading me more towards looking at these stats less often, which is why it's awesome that November is coming up, because it is a great time for No Look November, just like No Shave November. Last year we did a No Look November, and I thought it was great to do as a community, and it might just be a great time to focus on the nuts and bolts of building the site and worrying a lot less about what's happening today, because tomorrow it might be different. And truly, what is important is the overall long-term health and progress of the site. So if year on year the site is growing and has grown, then really what happens today or yesterday or the day before becomes so much less dramatic. And so that's one of the things that I've definitely taken some time to do, is zooming out, right? Like zooming out in analytics and zooming out in Google Search Console, because then I can see the trajectory over time. And maybe right now the site is not at its highest point, whichever site you're talking about, whichever site I'm thinking about, but over time compared to last year or 6 months ago, like, is it still on a trajectory that is positive? And for the most part, I think all of the projects that I'm working on, the answer is yes. The trajectory overall is positive. And I remember John Dykstra talking about this. Well, he probably talks about it all the time, but I remember the first time somebody introduced this topic, or just showing the graph to me, just looking at things over time. So his graph was like 2 or 3 years long, and just like watching the ups and downs. But overall, like, he was able to draw a line to it, and it looked like this. Maybe it's not like a rocket, right? Like maybe it doesn't go to the moon and stay at the moon, but you could just see that it was still making progress in the right direction. And so, yes, I mean, it's a bummer when the dailies are down, or when you're down this month from last month. And I just kind of trying to get out of the habit of looking, one, every day, and then two, of feeling all the feels every day, like the feels of, oh, this is a fail, or things are failing, a more active verb there. It's just not very healthy. And so I'm a firm and happy advocate of doing less checking in on stats. And I am definitely planning on No Look November. And I will just be not looking, and maybe there will be updates. Last year, I got sucked into the October spam update a little bit, and then I got sucked in November, and then I got sucked in May, and then June, and this is just bad for my health. So I'm just not going to look in November, and maybe something will happen in November I'm going to wish that I looked for, but maybe I should just focus on publishing content or doing the other things that the sites need instead of feeling any feels at all. Going over to the chat, saying hi to the folks who are rolling in. There is Sonia, first one in today. Sonia's around the world for me on the other side of the world. It is the middle of the night, so welcome, friend. Thank you. There is Simplify Gardening, our friend Tony. I'm pretty sure your name is Tony. If I'm calling you Tony and I shouldn't be, you really got to tell me because I for some reason have paired up Tony with Simplify Gardening, and if that's not it, you have to tell me because maybe it's Tom, and I need to know. And Harold, what's going on? The Wolf of Blockchain. Thank you for dropping in. Simplify Gardening, Tony. I knew it. I knew it was Tony. Tony says that his site was also down yesterday a bit. And I don't know if it was like getting primed, like, here we go, like, buckle up, like, seatbelts, like, here we go. But that feels like what happened. For the fight site, my legal site, it had been like trending downward as of about 10 days ago. And then I don't know what changed. It started to go like, and then started going like this. And now we have another update. And so this is for all of our colleagues and friends who are out there frantically trying to figure out how to recover from an update. At this point, to me, it seems, I don't want to say pointless, a waste of energy, like shooting in the dark right now because things are changing constantly. So if you go through and you say, okay, this is my problem, and then I go and like change your repost, and then something else happens. It could be a rollback, it could be a new update, and then you've gone and done all this stuff. It just does not seem like right now is a good time to dramatically make changes to strategy as far as like on page or links or um, content length. I mean, really, like what counts as helpful, what counts as thin content, what's link spam. I mean, we don't necessarily know what all of these things mean, and I don't think that Google is done testing them out, like helping us figure it out, helping us. I just think there's more testing coming. So I don't know. This seems like a great time in my mind to stay the course and continue to just do what I thought was working before and trying to think more in the line of like, what would a real business do, right? What more would a somebody who is planning something for the long term do versus like a quick growth cash grab sort of attitude, even though, I mean, it's hard to not think of it like that way sometimes because that is possible in this space and just sort of go with the flow and see what happens. So that's me. Tony says this has got to be the worst year for updates. It is the most updates I've ever seen. It doesn't mean necessarily that Google hasn't always been back there like tweaking, like, you know, in the background without saying anything, but being like upfront and be like, hey, here's another update. I mean, it's something else. It's something else. Zach says, I think I lost the snippets on my main site. Yeah, that happened to me last year and they did not come back. But it looks like all of my less than 2-year-old competitors did too. They all either went away or went to YouTube or much older, larger sites. Yeah, the YouTube going up in there as the first result is kind of interesting because for me, it's not a result that I want. I'm not interested necessarily or in a place where I can watch a video. And so Google giving me YouTube as a number one option, I scroll. Like I continue down the page looking for an article. And I don't know what that necessarily does or as far as the data that is Google is collecting for putting video results first. Usually when I see a video, I make the assumption that there's no articles on point and that's why we're getting a video. But Not lately. There's this shuffle going on. And so I just like if I search something for myself, I just keep scrolling because I figured down further, there's got to be an article that actually is written on the topic. Sonia says, back to the idea of stats, the zooming out is great. Overall, it's a surplus compared to a year. So even though she lost 35% of traffic last month due to the update, still better than where she was before. I don't know if I said hi to Margaret, but I want to say hello, Margaret. And I have not had a chance to check in with you lately, my dear, but I would love to know how things are going. Any updates that you have? I'm totally interested in what that looks like. Tony says, as far as what to do in this time of updates, he says that he's not changing anything. He's just going to go on as normal. I just think that that's got to be the plan for now in the near future, at least until things seem to settle down a little bit. And if they don't, maybe that will be the new normal. Maybe the new normal is just like wild fluctuations, like there's our friend blog builder. There's Andy. What's going on? Folks, it is a small group today, and that is all right with me because it means that I can poke at the folks who are in the chat and ask them, one, how are things going? And please put an update in the chat. I'd love to hear what's going on. This is a great time to throw out questions either for me or for the good of the order. I'm not an expert, so I don't always know the answers, but usually there's somebody in the chat who knows more than me, and they're more than happy in most cases to be helpful. Zach says that we're talking back about video, I think. He says, I'm seeing this as one more indicator to go heavy on video alongside blog content. I have been, my shiny object syndrome, it's like pow, 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 like thinking about starting a new site in 2023, but maybe it's time to work on a different strategy of some kind, either YouTube or something else. I don't want to think of it like giving up because sometimes that's what it feels like to jump ship from a strategy, but it might just be good business to try something different for a while. Oh, I see, Margaret, the reminder to hit the like button. Yes, this is a good time for those of you who are in the chat to smash it, hit it, massage it, whatever. We don't know if it does anything. It does make my heart feel fuzzy. And maybe it tells YouTube that something, I don't know, but there's our friend Jasper. Hey, Jasper. So I heard that there's another update rolling out. We had some colleagues, myself included, who saw a downturn yesterday. I was wondering if you had seen anything positive or negative on any of your projects. Now would be a great time to hear just from you or anyone else who started to see some rumbles in the last couple of days, because it would be great to know. For those of you who are just rolling in now, yes, Google announced just a couple hours ago that they are rolling out the Google October 22 Google spam update. What are they looking for? I don't know. The Search Engine Journal says that if you followed the Google search essentials, you probably won't have to worry too much about it. But I honestly don't trust that sites that are doing their best to just do their best won't get sucked into it, because we seem to get sucked in even when it seems like we shouldn't. Sonia says, when you update a post, do you need to change the update date or leave it to the original published date? How will Google know that the post is updated? That is a great question. If I'm going to go back and update the post, I usually update the published date just so that it look like if people are scrolling and looking for the specific dates. But the other thing I've done often is just removed the that from showing up in the metadata, so it's not an option. I use a plugin and some of the sites where it like the content is evergreen, and it the same post could serve the same audience forever. Like it's good enough so that they don't see that it's just like 10 years old. But yeah. Zach says, Sonia, your sitemap will tell Google that there's an update. Yes, it does say like the last modified. So then there's a little date and then it goes down, and you could go to the bottom of your sitemap and see what is something that you have not updated in so long? That's actually where I often start when I'm looking at, oh, should I update old content, as I go to the sitemap and then just go to the bottom and look for something that I haven't updated in the longest time, and then just start from there and work my way through. Andy says he's currently updating old articles, a lot not bringing any traffic. There's some arguments about that people call them zombie articles or ghost articles. These articles that you have on your site, whether or not we should just remove them. And I'm on the side of leaving them, because I feel like even zombie articles or ghost articles can help support prop up other articles that do get traffic, because I think that there's a holistic review on some of these competitive topics that Google is looking to see how deep a site is, even though maybe not all those articles get traffic. But on the other side of it, some folks argue that those zombie articles, or whatever you want to call them, that they can actually drag down overall maybe the traffic to the amount of content. Like if there's some sort of metric that tracks how many people actually go there for the amount of stuff that's on the site, and have found that by pruning maybe some dead branches, that has led to a refresh and allowing Google to really send traffic to the highly targeted areas that it already has decided, like as a person, has already concluded in whatever formula that there is, that this site is an authority on these other topics. I'd love to know what other people think about pruning versus updating, or just leaving it and moving on. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. Harold says that the fluctuations lately have caused him to turn more to podcasting, videos, and social. That is that's something I've been giving a lot of thought to as well lately. Jasper says that one of his sites looks a little bit lower than usual, like 10% maybe, and the others are stable. Well, that's good. I hope that it continues. They say that this update will last several weeks, which is like a normal day now. Google's rolling out an update. That just makes it a Tuesday. Tony says that when he updates a post, he also resubmits the URL to force crawl in Search Console, which is another way to make sure that Google sees that there has been an update. Jasper says the one that is down is the one that got hit, also lost 75% during the September updates. Yeah, people say, oh, this is just because it is aimed at spam. If you're not doing anything bad, you should be fine. I just don't trust that that's what's going to happen. Sonia says, but does changing the date to the latest updates do anything? I just think that it could influence whether or not someone decides that the content is fresh and decide to click on it. And so people who scroll looking through the results, looking for something that was posted in this year or even in the last month, are more likely to click on those. So that could be the good reason to update that, assuming that that's what date shows up in the result when it is that it comes up on page 1. Tony also mentions that maybe those zombie articles, the articles that get no traffic, maybe it's a good reason to keep them, because they could rank later, either as a result of an update or just as your DA improves. So an article that's getting 0 traffic doesn't mean that it's bad. It could just be ranking on page 2, and or even on the bottom of page 1, and either the snippet or the images or whatever is on the above the fold is just taking care of that query, taking care of that customer, that user, that they just never get to the bottom. So a simple improvement in maybe by getting a couple of links over time, or just age, will catapult that article up. So that is a good argument to leave those posts even though they don't get traffic. Margaret says, reading an article published yesterday, in air quotes, that was clearly written 5 years ago is annoying. That's true. So some of these, I think that there are plugins that automatically update the date posted to something more recent, even though the article is old. And that is annoying. When you're reading through it and you're like, this person is no longer the leader of this country. This country no longer exists. And you're telling me that this article was posted yesterday? I think that is very suspicious. And then I bounce. So Zach responding to Sonia talking about whether or not changing the date published makes a difference. He says, it's mostly for user experience. He says, I put updated date in mind because my niche is not entirely evergreen, but it may not matter for others. Zach says, the date that is displayed in Google can vary. For often they'll pick the latest update from any content in the article. So I've had mine take the date of the article, an embedded video, etc. All right, so there you go. Even though you go out of your way to try and influence the date that Google picks to display to the user, it may just decide to pick whatever it wants. I did want to quickly share a story of, I don't want to call it a fail. I want to call it a prime example of somebody who's scrambling to do everything. Last week, I had an interview, a podcast interview scheduled, not for my own podcast, which is so neglected, but Otis.global, who I'm partnered with on Project Icarus, they asked me if I would be a guest on their new podcast. And I didn't realize, first of all, that they had a podcast. And then I realized that I think I was going to be the first like external guest, because I think so far the only interview that they had completed and produced was with Alex Drew, who's a leader, team owner, all of the things in Otis.global. And so I scheduled this interview for Friday. And then lo and behold, right before the time when I was supposed to be there, I had, I want to call it a small emergency with one of my children, and totally spaced it. Right. So I go out of my way to like be professional and like trying to make a name for myself, being on time and like really reliable. And then in the juggle of trying to do everything, I end up with a sick kid. And I did not do something I normally do, which is add myself a reminder, an alert on my phone. And that was where I went wrong. And I will never do that again. I failed to do that again. But I got out of taking care of him and discovered all these messages where I had just completely blown this opportunity to participate and give back to a company that has contributed to my career. And so I like frantically like running over there and trying to get hold of the folks. And luckily for me, they had held the team, which they actually had like a whole like production team. And so I felt worse, right? Not only did I feel bad because I had held over the podcast host, I should have realized that there was a whole team. So like a camera person and a sound person and then the host. And so if anybody from Otis is watching this, once again, I want to apologize for being a space cadet. We did do the interview. And for those of you who already know me, I don't think that there will be anything new or different in it, because I didn't know the podcast host either. And so mostly what we was shoot the breeze and talk a bit about like some global philosophy things. Like one of the questions they asked me is like, so, what is your strategy? Right. And it was interesting because my strategy isn't really something that has like a really good name. Like a lot of creators and YouTube have come up with names like they are Tomb Raiders or forum hijackers or, whatever. And I haven't given a name to anything because, for one, nothing that I do is anything that I came up with myself. So giving it a name and like trademarking it and getting a T-shirt sort of feels, it just feels, I don't know. It doesn't feel right, right? To like give a strategy a name that I didn't come up with and then market as my own. So and then I was like, well, I don't really do one thing. I mean, mostly what I do is just keep going, right? Does that a strategy, the grit and persistence and not give up strategy? I mean, it doesn't have a really good name to it. Like it doesn't ring and like roll off your tongue like tomb raiding. It's the get started and grind it out strategy. And so we talked about that. And he's like, oh, well, what about on page? I'm like, I'm not an expert there. What I am trying really hard to do is test everything out and find out for myself so that I can know whether or not these folks that tell me things that are working or not, whether or not I believe them because I've had this experience or not. And we also did try and talk a little bit about age domains, but again, I really had to restrict my comments to my personal experience, and my personal experience with age domains is limited to this one experience um, that I am working through in 2022. I'm in my 10th month of working with an age domain for the first time, and frankly, it's not even really an apples to Apple's situation because of this year, because of all of the updates. So you could say, oh, well, I think age domains are good, or I think age domains are not good. And like, who's actually going to be able to say one way or another with what something they have done is something that should be repeated next year, because nobody really knows what's going to happen next year. So again, this is a shout out to Otis at Global for one, holding the interview for me, two, being really nice to me and being so gracious after I totally let my personal life just like snatch my day away. And that was a great lesson for me that even though I generally remember and I generally get there, I probably still should set an alarm. I still should set a reminder. So just imagine what this house might normally look like if I wasn't prepared to be on a podcast that was being recorded, and then you'll have an idea of what my appearance may look like. So we'll have to look forward to it. If anything, when the interview comes out, I expect it will come out next month, you'll have a chance to look at it to see how messy my hair looks, how messy my house looks, and then my kid is like over here like bouncing around like because he's there and he wasn't supposed to be there. This is scheduled for a time when he was supposed to be at school, and instead his like little head is like popping up and he's like, Mom, and I'm like trying to be professional. So those of you with kids or dogs or um, roommates can I guess relate to not having control of your space. Oh, hey, there's our friend Sabina. I was storytelling about my almost disaster with the new Otis podcast that I recorded with them last Friday. She says that she misses us and a new job has her super busy. And I feel like there's a baby that's going to come out like any minute, like literally any minute now. You could also have your portfolio and a new job and your family and a new baby. And so basically the rest of us who are struggling just to get to an appearance, to get to a podcast interview on time, and you're over there juggling also a baby, which is awesome. Tony says he's been going through all his old posts and adding schema to see if that can help Google along. A good idea. He says despite the updates, he had some good news today, so it makes no difference what Google does. So maybe the good news is either with the sites or offline, but either way, you're going to be celebrating, hopefully, and whatever way you celebrate, either taking some time off or having an alcoholic beverage or non-alcoholic beverage or whatever. Zach says, call it blog gardening. What do you do? I'm a blog gardener, not gardener. I'm a blog gardener. That's what I do. And that'll be the name. Whenever I get around to making some shirts, that's what it will be. Trademark it. Our friend Josh Cube is rolling in. He says better late than never. And I agree. Josh, we are shooting the breeze about the 2022 October 2022 Google spam update. Some of us who are in the chat have already noticed the rumbles starting yesterday, and I'm just planning a no look November, and I'm just going to stop looking because it's just not really that helpful at all to progress and motivation to just ride the roller coaster of Google lately. Josh says that videos coming, catching up on life. Oh yeah, you mean YouTube videos? Yeah, I have a YouTube video to make as well, a couple of YouTube videos before the end of the month. But man, there's just a lot of stuff going on right now. Life is delayed publishing, but video is such a time eater. Yes, my short little videos that take 5 or 6 minutes to watch usually take me 4 to 6 hours to produce, and it's sad. but that's really how long it takes me because I have to try and like I can sit here and talk live, whatever. But when I know that I'm gonna have to look back at it and edit it, it doesn't come out easily. It's like blah 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 blah, and like I won't be able to say it the way I want to say it, and then I have to go back and like write down the script, and then when I read it, it sounds like I'm reading it. So then I have to try again and try to get it so that it sounds like it takes forever. Margaret's asking Tony about his schema, whether he's doing FAQs. And he says person, video, FAQ, and article. And Margaret says, wow, I need to look up some of those. And Tony says, funny, me too. Yes, I will say me too, because I don't necessarily, for one, I'm not doing any purposeful schema. And so I don't know necessarily how one would go about that either. Josh says, LOL. Google updates. I have just stopped caring as I have zero control. Yes, that is becoming my attitude as well. He says video is a full-time job. Yes, easily. Like I could literally produce max one video a day, maybe. And if the video needed to be longer, like if it needed to be 10, 12, 20 minutes, I mean, that's a week's worth of work at that point. Oh, Leona is dropping in. Thank you for coming in, friend. How is it going? Leona, we're talking about the spam update that has started rolling out today, taking potentially the next couple of weeks, looking for anyone who has already started to experience rumbles and grumbles. I am one of these, and you can see by my doesn't care face because at this point, I don't care. It's going to do what it's going to do. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm going to do. And so there. Andy says, for me, the win is not to get hit. None of my sites had a big spike up from any update. I would say that definitely counts as a win. If you can just hang on and ride the wave and come out on the other side, mostly unscathed, it feels pretty good. Tony says, break it down into a few lines, a paragraph. Amelia, we're talking about video. He says, break it down and read it out loud and just film that section, then edit them together. It's much easier so you don't sound like a robot. Yeah, I want it to sound natural, like I'm just speaking, right? Like it's just like right now, right? I can speak and then it can come out and without a lot of the ha. But mostly what I'm speaking right now is off the cuff and I don't have a plan for what I want to say. So when I have a plan for what I want to say is when I struggle. Zach says that just think about how long and how many people it takes to produce a TV show. 4 to 6 hours for a 3-minute video isn't bad at all. I know, but it just takes up so much time. And I keep thinking about all the other things that I could be doing with that time. And it's just like, man. Maeve dropping in. Maeve, how's it going? Have you been writing out the updates all right? We've got one rolling out starting today, and people rolling in for the most part seem to be doing okay. But I think that the time will tell as the week goes on, as we roll through the end of October, and hopefully, maybe there will be some positive results of this rather than negative. Sonia says that it's really annoying that Reddit is ranking above me. I don't know what works and what doesn't anymore. Yeah, I don't think that that the forums taking the top like 1, 2, 3 spots over more established sites. I don't think that's going to last because I don't think necessarily that is like the best results. And I think for me, I don't necessarily like to click on forums like Reddit for my answer. I like looking for more established websites, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Andy decided to go and look, and he says, for now, down about 30% compared to previous month average stats. Yes, well, tomorrow is a new day, and there's plenty of day left, and I just don't think that allowing the impact of an update to determine 1, how we feel about the day, 2, how we feel about our business or our efforts, and 3, to cut out the motivation and just take the wind out of our sails. We just can't let it do that. And that's something that I'm personally working on because I'm very momentum motivated. So when I don't have momentum, I'm not very motivated, and I have to figure out how to continue to stay motivated when I don't have momentum. That's where I'm at right now. And maybe in a couple of months, I'll let you know how that plays out. Scrolling ahead. Zach says that he likes Reddit for honest reviews. The more I get into blogging, the less I trust about 99% of bloggers for reviews. Yes, but you're on the other side. You are on the other side of it. I guess the thing I don't like about some forums is that when people try to post their opinions, that so many people like to pile upon them. And I really don't like scrolling through the piling upon or the really negative responses are people who, the armchair warriors that have sat in the same chair for the last 20 years and think that they know everything about everything and like to just post something that's not very helpful. And I don't like surrounding myself with that. And I've seen a lot of that on Reddit. Sonia says, so what's the plan? I feels like we don't know what works and what doesn't. Yeah, I think staying the course, doing what has worked so far is what I'm going to do. And if anybody asks me what I thought they should do, that's what I would recommend because things are continually changing. And the cool thing about having lots of content published is that tweaking things can be a matter of a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. But publishing hundreds of posts of content take years, right? So in the meantime, while we're sort of sorting out what Google is doing, you can still create content. You can still post it. And then as it becomes more clear over time, based upon data, based upon who is succeeding and what strategies are succeeding, we can adapt to those strategies. But if I really think that if I sit back and do nothing and just wait and don't publish anything, that I will be further behind when those strategies and those thoughts really do start to emerge and start to become more concrete. So I'm going to recommend staying the course. Keep doing what you're doing. If you feel like now is a good time to be conservative, right? Writing the content yourself instead of really overextending financially. I mean, that's the way to go about it. That's what I'm doing. But I don't think that just waiting, like the wait and see without any forward motion at all is going to position me to take advantage of the swing when it swings back, when I figure out some things, when other people figure out some things and share them. Maeve says she has not looked at blogs in a month. Oh, well done. Well done. Been busy shutting down her e-commerce project. Last day was last Friday, so taking off a week to decompress. Well done on you. We'll look at them next week. Yeah, don't even look at them next week. Why don't you just wait until like January? That's what I would recommend. Josh says, unless all I do is not help people and then just spam insights. Let's see. Zach says, oh yeah, the Reddit crowd is toxic. Cannot argue with that. Tony says that he's doing okay and he has 98% info articles. And then procrastination is a very sure way to fail. Yes. The answer is yes. It totally is. Friends, I've got about 5 minutes to go. I know that the timing is off a little bit, and so we had some folks come in late today because they're not necessarily knowing when I'm going to come on. It was like a ninja today. I just snuck in and posted that this stream was going to happen just a couple minutes before I got on. The plan, I actually am going to be away from my desk for the next couple of days. I am aware that I am very off the mark for my accountability. And I'm going to be okay with it because I've been busy. I have been productive. I have been working on passion and positivity in the last several weeks. So that's been a real goal of mine is just being happier and satisfied and making this business work and setting myself up so that I can do that. And so I'm not going to feel bad about maybe not reaching my 100 article goal. I'm just going to keep publishing and to keep moving forward and take my own advice, which is to stay the course. So thank you so very much for taking the time to drop in. I do plan to be here next Wednesday. It will be put us that much closer to November, which I'm shocked, right? That 2022 is almost done, but it is. Thank you so much to Zach and Josh and Margaret and Maeve and Sabina and Sonia and Andy and so many of our colleagues and friends who have dropped in today to check in. And if you are here on the replay, please let us know, #replay, or just say I was lurking and working, and let us know how things are going for you this week. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week.